Marianne Williamson, one of the people who is indeed running against President Biden, joins us now. Let me ask, just big picture. Joe Biden's the incumbent. We have not had an incumbent president primaried successfully in modern times. Air Force One makes a lot of noise when it shows up in South Carolina, which is the Democrats' first primary. What makes you think you have a chance?
I don't think it's a matter of do you have a chance. First of all, there's no way to predict who's going to win a presidential election. No one thought Donald Trump had a chance. So, you know, if I remember correctly, Hillary Clinton was theoretically a shoo-in.
Yep.
So that argument,
and in 2008 as well.
And one of the interesting things about American politics is how unpredictable it is. So nobody knows who has a chance. I think what should have a chance is as broad an array of options as possible. The way you protect your democracy is by practicing your democracy. And that's what's important here. I think particularly those who are voting in the Democratic primary should listen to anyone who feels that they, number one, could defeat the Republican more effectively in 2024, right, and even more importantly, help repair this country in the 4 years coming.
Right, so nobody's saying you can't run, specifically just saying there's not going to be any DNC debates. What would specifically happen between you and Joe Biden in a debate that you think would change the race enough that you move ahead?
I agree with the majority of Americans who think that this country is on the wrong track. You know, the president's message is basically that the economy is doing pretty well. The economy is doing pretty well for 20% of Americans. According to a recent CNBC poll, 70% of Americans report feeling financially stressed. I believe that we have moved basically from democracy to oligarchy, and we have the vast majority of wealth, and more importantly than that, wealth creation opportunity in the hands of a very, very small group of Americans.
Yeah,
and the only way to fix that is through genuine and fundamental economic reform. That's my agenda, and that's different than the president's.
Yeah, we've talked a lot on the program about sort of the fundamental unfairness right now of the American economy. Is Biden healthy enough to run again? Mentally, 63% no, physically 62% no. NBC News poll, should Biden run again? No, 70%, yes, 26%. Why not? 69% say age is the issue. Do you think President Biden is fit enough to be elected president the second term? If you lose the nomination, would you endorse him?
Well, in terms of whether or not he's fit, every voter has to decide that for themselves. I believe that there's a selfishness there to run for president at that age. I feel that way. But every voter has to decide for themselves. In terms of what I would do, I don't feel I need to make any commitment other than that I'm running a campaign, and I hope to do my very best to win the nomination and win the presidency.
All right. This was This is your second time running. Yeah. You ran back in 2020. Launched November 2018, and then you endorsed Bernie Sanders in February of 2020. This was your first debate. You've been there before in June of 2019. Take a listen.
You may only get one shot, and your first issue that you're going to push, you get one shot that it may be the only thing you get passed. What is that first issue? Ms. Williamson, with the last word.
My first call is to Prime Minister of New Zealand, who said that her goal is to make New Zealand the place where it's the best place in the world for a child to grow up. And I will tell her girlfriend you were so on.
You were mocked pretty roundly for that. Is this a different Marianne Williamson that we're seeing now, or the same one?
No, actually, I said a lot of really good things on those debates. In that moment, obviously, my nervousness overwhelmed.
Yep.
However, I want to say something. Jacinda Ardern had said that when she was Prime Minister of New Zealand, that she wanted New Zealand to be the best place in the world for a child to grow up. So what I said, in an admittedly silly, nervous way, was that my biggest issue, my one shot, is that I want America to become the best place for a child to grow up. And that's why I was saying, you'll be on.
I just want to, you say to become, so America right now is not the best place?
Are you kidding? You could look at issue after issue, and we're very low.
So where's better?
Almost any other advanced democracy. For one thing, we have the highest child poverty rate. We have the highest poverty rate, period, among any other advanced democracy. In every other advanced democracy, they have free childcare. In every other advanced democracy, they have paid family leave. In every other advanced democracy, they have free college tuition and at trade schools.
So one of the issues you have to deal with as president, though, is the border. One of the issues you'd have to deal with as president is the border.
Yes.
Why, if America is not the best place, admittedly we have all of our faults, why are so many people trying to come here?
Oh, well, that's kind of to talk. You asked me how children were doing here, and I talked about objective statistical issues. That doesn't mean I don't love my country or that I don't know why people are trying to come here. Obviously, there are aspects of the United States, such as my own grandparents' experience when they came through Ellis Island.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.